So first of all, massive thank you to everybody for being here. We've got such a mix of people, and actually loads of people who are keen to take part, who are able to come and not able to come. A mixture of obviously our amazing staff at our local clinic out in India. We've got trustees on here. We've got sort of old-time friends of the clinic like Mary Hayes, and lots of new and old sponsors. So it's a real mixed bag of people who've been able to join us today, and it's a huge honour to have you here along for the ride. It's actually 6:30 in the evening in India, so I'm particularly grateful to the Pendsey family and to Seema for giving up their Saturday evening to come and speak to everybody. And it's been a pretty terrible year for everybody, but I suppose one of the amazing things which has come out of it is this opportunity for us all to connect in this way. You know, I never would have thought when I first went to India, sort of 9-10 years ago now, that I'd be sitting here doing a webinar with all the supporters of the charity, and you know, our Indian partners able to join us and talk about their work. And I really hope for those of you who haven't been out to India or haven't met the Pendseys before and Seema, that this will really bring it to life for you, and those who have, it will bring it back, rushing back for you, and sort of remind you about why we're doing what we do. So just to give you a quick outline of what we're going to talk about today, I'm not going to talk for too long because the real stars of the show, obviously the staff at the partner clinic. So in a minute, I'm going to pass you over to Seema, who is the chief dietitian and diabetes educator at our local partner charity, the Dream Trust. She's also CEO of Dream Trust. She's going to talk a little bit about what she does, and introduce our kind of key speaker, who is Dr. Pendsey, who's going to talk for about 30 minutes about what can only be described as incredibly inspiring 25 years of work which he's undertaken. I'll then tell you a little bit about the Pendsey Trust and how we came to be, which will be a nice trip down memory lane for some people. I've got people who've joined me at all different stages in the adventure on this call today, and for other people just who are newer to our work, to understand how we work and how we work with Dream Trust. We're then going to have some opportunity for question and answer. I think the best way to run that is if anybody has any questions either at that point or as we're going through, if you could just pop them in the chat box at the bottom. If you move your mouse around down at the bottom, it says chat. If you click on that and just type it in there. I've got a couple already which have been emailed across, and we will ask those. I think Sankit's going to do the majority of the question and answer. Sankit is Dr. Pendsey's son, who also works is heavily involved with the trust. So with no further ado, I would like to hand you over to Seema, if that's all right. Seema? I'm just going to unmute you.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Seema. I'm working with Dream Trust since long time. It's around 24 years now. On behalf of Dream Trust, I welcome you all of you for this meeting. And Lucy, thank you for arranging this meeting. And I would like to say thank you to Pendsey Trust and every one of you for the generous support to Dream Trust. And now I will request Dr. Pendsey, that is Managing Trustee of Dream Trust, to explain about Dream Trust activities and how it grows. So over to you, sir, now.
Oh, we need to unmute you, Dr. Pendsey.
All the help they are extending to us since almost now 6 or 8 years, and I'm overwhelmed with their generosity and support. Lucy visited us way back in 2011 as a student on a scholarship, and I feel guilty because I underestimated her. When she went back, I thought, oh, she's a student. What is she going to do? She went around, I showed her patients, we went to villages. But in a year's time, I was proved absolutely wrong. And I came to know about her potentials after 2012 when she began Pendsey Trust and its activities. Can I show these slides? So I'll be describing you about the work of Dream Trust. I always call this children with type 1 diabetes as a garden variety of diabetes, only because this is the, unlike type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes behaves exactly what the textbook says. So I always feel that the disease reads the textbook and follows accordingly. The burden of type 1 diabetes is different than what we have with type 2 diabetes. But it is very difficult to manage type 1 as against type 2 diabetes. Worldwide, there are 1 million children with type 1 diabetes, and US has the highest, has 200,000, 24,000 children with type 1 diabetes. Entire Europe has about 300,000 children, but India has second highest number of type 1 diabetic children. It's 184,000 children. Every fifth child with type 1 diabetes in the world is an Indian. And in India, from these 184,000 children, 70% are poor and 50% are girls. The standard protocol of treatment, as you all know, in internationally advised, is several pricks of insulin, analogs a day, 7 to 8 blood tests, CGMS, A1C 3 to 4 months, and all the lab investigations and all steps to prevent chronic complications. And they have access to patient education. But the cost of this treatment goes about 150 pounds per month in a Western world, but they are all insured. In India, the children are not insured and they have to bear all the expenses themselves. So poor families find it extremely difficult to commit quarter of their monthly income for the treatment of one diabetic child. And this is why they try to find shortcuts, which they wrongly believe will make treatment less expensive. They even stop insulin, and there are other problems like illiteracy, poverty, and gender discrimination. Gender discrimination is a major problem in our country, especially in poor families. So you might have heard about female feticide, infanticide, is although it is decreasing, but it's still common. Everyone wants a loving mother and a charming wife, but nobody wants a daughter, and that's the problem. Therefore, our trust gives priority to girls. There are other challenges. Most of these children without support take only one shot of insulin a day, resulting in very poor control. They develop frequent complications, infections, hospitalization. Their growth is retarded. They are usually school dropouts and they don't grow to the marriageable age, girls, and so leave apart childbearing. With no electricity, storage of insulin is a big problem. And all together leads to a short life expectancy if they do not get help from outside. And the life expectancy of the children is around 2 to 3 years from the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes if they don't receive help or support from outside. This is how the children come to us. You can see on left side She is almost bones, no flesh, no muscle mass. And after a couple of months of insulin therapy, you can see the sea change, a very remarkable change in her appearance, the weight gain, the muscle power, fat, subcute fat has come back, and she looks different now. Same is with boys. You can see he's reduced to only ribs. You can see, you can count all his ribs, but after 3 months you can see he's now well built. And this is a A1C chromatographic graph, and if you read it at the bottom, the reading is 24.4% A1C. The normal is 6, and it's 24%. I have consulted many top workers in this area, and this has been the highest recorded in the world. It all started when I had a shocking incident of losing two diabetic girls because their parents had intentionally stopped insulin, knowing very well the consequences. Then I realized, when I thought over the problem, first my reaction was I was very angry, and I was about to go and visit them. But then I realized for them, the choice was between starvation of other healthy children versus treatment of one girl who has type 1 diabetes. And that's when in 1995, now 25 years back, the Dream Trust was born in 1995, and we got approval in next year. So we set up some targets before us and objectives to start Dream Trust, and our very basic objectives were we have to ensure survival of the children, prevent acute complications, prevent growth retardation, promote education in these girls and boys, and make them live up to the age when they can get married, and most important, make them self-reliant, and they should be able to lead life with pride and dignity. So apart from international protocol, we follow our standard protocol. We give 4 pricks of insulin a day. 30% of the children get analog. It's very expensive, therefore. And we do only 2 tests per day instead of 7. And rest, we thoroughly examine them and keep a watch on their physical conditions. We try to achieve A1C of single digit, unlike international standard of below 7%. But we are still struggling to achieve that target. But we keep our target of single digit A1C, and this treatment cost about 2,000 Indian rupees per month. In 1997, after forming the Dream Trust, I wrote an article, "Where Have All the Girls Gone?" after the shocking incident of losing 2 girls. And this article was published in England by British Diabetic Association in their magazine Balance. And this provoked tremendous response in England as well as German-speaking Europe. And I started, those days there were no emails or WhatsApp, but I started getting letters, and they were simply to learn about the tragic incidents happening with type 1 diabetic girls in India, and all of them volunteered some sort of support. And Mary and her husband Alan, who are here, were the first overseas visitor to Dream Trust. They came and stayed in Nagpur for a couple of days, visited several children at their homes. She delivered very motivational talk to children and their parents, and we still remember a short visit in way back in 2001. And then Lucy, the in charge of Pendsey Trust, visited us in 2011 July, and she, as I said, I underestimated Lucy very much. She came as a student, entered very confused. She changed in one day 3 different hotels, and she was always unhappy with each hotel. So I had to arrange. By the end of the day, I could manage to put her in some respectable hotel where she had access to Wi-Fi. That was her aim. And then she had a wonderful time for a week, which she stayed. She visited several children and interviewed them. And you can see we visited villages, and you can see a little girl. And in the background, you can see her mother and a very primitive house. Now, can you expect a good type of treatment to this girl child when the family has other 3 or 4 more children? Just for one girl child to treat and spend almost 40 to 50% of their monthly income on treatment of this girl child. So you can understand the consequences of treating, and therefore the Dream Trust came to their rescue. And we always visit the villages. One of the visits to villages, I checked with their diet, and you can see this mother and girl have visited our Dream Trust, and this the tiffin they bring, and their diet is only carbohydrate. 80% is only carbohydrate, either Indian bread, that is roti, and white rice. That's the main staple food. And then they have lentil soup or little of pickle or something. So 80% is carbohydrate, hardly proteins of 8%, while the ideal diet is carb 50%, fats 30%, and 20% protein. But rural diet is hypocaloric, devoid of poultry, meat, fruits, different vegetables, and milk. Occasionally, they have access to this sort of fancy food, but most of the time, they eat only rice and chapatis. In 25 years of Dream Trust, we started with 5 children in 2001, and now it has grown about 2,200 children being sponsored by Dream Trust, and thousands of vials of human insulin, syringes, blood glucose monitoring system, meters, cartridges, and 30% of the children get analog insulin, which is double the cost of human insulin. Uh, we have also started new projects like giving travel grant to collect insulin so that they can come every 4 months. They get educational scholarship so that they go to school and achieve some educational qualifications so as to qualify for a job. We started bicycle projects, very interesting, to prevent school dropouts. And we started also providing help for all other medical problems if they have. Storage of insulin is a problem. The children who do not have electricity, we provide them clay pots. And since few years, we have started distributing refrigerators. And we also provide grant to make them self-reliant and start some business. Uh, Look at this girl. She came, was totally blind. You can see uh, her eyes totally white because of matured cataract. So we took help of our ophthalmic surgeon and put lens implant in both the eyes, and you can see the sea change in the appearance of the girl before and after the lens implant. And with the educational grants, now our girls are happily attending schools, and they are studying beyond the 8th and 10th standard. And here on 14th May 2013, the first visit Lucy made was in 2011, if I'm not wrong. And the Pendsey Trust was launched in 2013, 14th May. And this was the first project. You'll be surprised to see 100 bicycles were shipped from London, and they were received in Nagpur at my residence and the office of Dream Trust. And this is where in our garage we stored them, and Lucy visited us and we distributed these cycles within 1 week to prevent robbery and other things. And in 2020, Lucy was again with us, and by this time, from 100 bicycles shipped to us from London, the number has gone to 950 in 2020. And after the lockdown, we stopped this activity, but soon, once the corona epidemic or pandemic gets better, we'll again restart with our project of distributing bicycles. The growth retardation, the school dropout dropped down very significantly. Expectancy was 2 years. It came down to hardly 1 or 2% in our patients. Girls started growing well. You can see the healthy girls. But the problem, once these girls achieve the marriageable age, if they are not married, then they are soft target for antisocial elements. And the brown tika that you see is a sign of marriage for any girl. And we encourage marriage. We encourage them to tell the other side entire story of their diabetes and not hide it from the other side. And that has helped many girls to get married. We help them, and they also have normal childbearing, which was unheard with this poor diabetic girl. You can see all girls are now growing well and have get married and have their children, and we look after them. As I said, those who do not have electricity, we provide these earthen pots to store insulin. Remember, in Nagpur, during summer, the temperature is 46 degrees Celsius. And then the insulin gets destroyed or ineffective in majority. So these pots help if they do not have electricity. And since last 3 years, we have started distributing refrigerators. And Roy was with us. He visited several homes and saw these refrigerators to store insulin. And we reached these refrigerators directly in the remote village so as to prevent all transport hassles. 3 years back, Joe and other members of Pendsey Trust provided us these Frio bags to store insulin during transport. And now we regularly give all our children during summer months Frio bags which they use for storing insulin while going to school or coming to Dream Trust to collect insulin. We also motivate the children and their depressed parents. And I'm sure most of you would identify the person sitting between me and my friend. The middle one is Sunil Gavaskar, our opening cricket batsman. And he visited Dream Trust and spoke so well with the children and the parents and motivated them. We regularly conduct this educational program in villages also. And some of these children, both the parents have to go to work for daily wages at 10 o'clock. And the children miss their afternoon injection if they are very young, less than 8 years. So we educate the primary school teacher and also the primary healthcare workers to give afternoon injection to the children so that they don't miss the afternoon injection and land in problems. We, as I said, once these girls or boys grow up, we rehabilitate them, provide them funds to start small business so that they can have some earning and become self-reliant. And we visit this boy, we gave grant to have goat farming, and these children were given to start business of dairy business with goat, with the buffalo you can see on this side, a cow on this side, and we always visit them. You can see in my picture. They also are motivated. She has started on the corner the beauty parlor in village, a daily needs center or a food center. You can see uh, Dilan Shah at Nagpur visit, and that's a food stall that have begun. And on the right, you can see my wife Swati. And this is one sample example. This Manda came to us in 1992, almost 30 years back. And this is how she was in 2001. We educated her. She became a assistant nurse and got a job in government health center, and now she is happily married and has a son, and she manages her expenses very well with the salary that she earns from this primary health center. uh, See the left side picture of 2011 when Lucy came to us, and you saw that girl with her family and primitive house in the background. Now she has grown up and she looks almost healthy girl, very bright girl, and she's continuing with her education. And when Roy came, we visited her in her village. You can see her with me on right side. Now she is almost a grown-up girl, very bright, freshly looking, and she's studying all the time. And some of our girls have become achievers. They have become dentists, pharmacists. They are good in sports. Some of them have become nurses, and they are providing health care to other patients. And I feel always proud about them. And these are the visitors from Pendsey Trust. You can see Lucy, Rachel, Roy, Joe, Dylan, and of course, Mary, who was the first visitor, and she visited again after a few years. I also met her in Dubai and England when I visited Dubai and England. She was there. And we have also other international supporters from Austria, from Japan, Canada, Switzerland, Australia, and Germany. In 2013, Dream Trust was awarded the best charity on diabetes, and this was awarded at Berlin in Germany, and it was awarded by a famous film star of Germany, Mr. Fuchsberger. And you can see that the old man unfortunately died 2 years back. He was a famous film star in Germany. This is the longest surviving type 1 with us in Nagpur. He is 86 and has diabetes for last 68 years. Uh, Recently, after the COVID pandemic, Dream Trust started distributing 15,000 rupees, that's about 200 pounds, to 300 below poverty line families with diabetic child, in addition to all other help that we provide. And this is to overcome severe financial crunch such families are facing because of COVID-19 situation. And Pendsey Trust also supported us for COVID-19 fund, and these are the recipients of fund from Pendsey Trust. You can see the families at their home with their primitive homes and family members, along with all those girls are type 1 diabetic girls receiving aid for COVID-19 fund from Pendsey Trust. we are on the verge of completing 100 years of insulin discovery, and that coinciding with silver jubilee of Dream Trust. And I always wish and pray that no diabetic should die for want of insulin anywhere in the world. 25 years of running Dream Trust has been very gratifying and very rewarding journey for me and my family. And I wrote in 1997, where have all the girls gone? And now I can assure all of you that they are very much here and they're all smiling. You can see them. And with this, I thank you, all the members of Pendsey Trust, all the donors of Pendsey Trust, Lucy and her family members, for all the generosity and the support they are extending to Dream Trust around the clock. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very obviously incredibly inspiring and difficult to follow that one. I think Dr. Pendsey, but I will do my best just in telling everyone a little bit about how what we do interweaves with what Dr. Pendsey's done. So I'll just get my screen up for you, and hopefully everyone can see this. So yeah, Dr. Pendsey told a little bit about his side of where this all started. So yeah, it was back in 2011. I was, as Dr. Pendsey said, I was a journalism student, and I attended a conference in Brussels as a sort of development conference, which was hosted by the International Diabetes Federation, and it was about non-communicable diseases and why they've fallen off the development agenda. The obvious thing being that people aren't as frightened about them because they feel like they can't catch them. And type 1 diabetes was talked as a particular area which just doesn't receive any international attention. I was absolutely horrified to hear. I've got a cousin who has type 1 diabetes. I was horrified to hear that that was the case. It wasn't something I'd ever really thought about. And simultaneously, there was this fund. You can see there a picture of John Snow, who you'll all hopefully recognise, who was a Channel 4 newsreader. And he's patron of a charity which provides grants for young journalists to go out to low resource countries to make documentaries about things which people don't know a lot about. And so I applied for one, and luckily for me, it's always sort of a serendipity how these things line up. Luckily he agreed, and he thought it was really interesting, and funded me to go out to Nagpur. I thought it was funny when Dr. Pendsey was talking about how I had to change hotel 3 times to find somewhere with Wi-Fi, considering how things have moved on. We're sort of 9 years on from that now. We're sat here having a webinar, and it was actually difficult to find anywhere which had Wi-Fi at that time. So I went out there, and I was just absolutely blown away by what I found, really, and the sort of passion and the enthusiasm of the staff at the clinic, and simultaneously the bravery and the perseverance of the patients who they were working with, who were just facing absolute adversity. And you know, you look at a family out there, and you can see it, a picture there of the little girl Nandini, who I went and visited the home of, along with other families, and you just think, how on earth are you going to overcome a condition which in our country is worrying and difficult and problematic? How on earth, with absolutely no access to free medical care, and not only that, but also guidance and assistance that you need to manage this difficult condition, how on earth are you going to manage? And this is the sad reality, that thousands and thousands of people with type 1 diabetes worldwide die needlessly every single year. When Banting donated his discovery of insulin brilliance of a world, and that's a different matter, but the fact that drug companies are profiting so enormously whilst this is happening, the whole experience just absolutely blew me away. I made this radio documentary called The Doctor Who Dreamed, which is still available if anyone is interested in listening to it, but more than that, I went away, and it took me, I think, a little while to process just how profound that experience I'd had was. I travelled a lot before, but had never experienced anything quite like this before, and I just knew that I had to do something to help, which I sort of pondered and thought about a lot. And I knew nothing about charities or setting up a charity or charity law. But by 2013, I sort of think it was 2012 we started off, but 2013 we really got things rolling. I got Paint up, the computer program Paint, designed myself the very basic logo, which has evolved a little bit now, but this is the original one, which you can see here. And I just got a group of friends together in London, where I was living at the time, and said, look, even if we manage to help a very small number of children, we've got to do something to support the amazing work which is going on at this clinic. We did everything. We did pub quizzes, we did hog roast. We had, in fact, a few people on this call were at, but we did an Indian dinner in the basement of a curry house in Brick Lane. We just did whatever we could, raffles to just try and bring money in. And the rule is you have to raise £5,000 in a year to register with the Charities Commission. And that first year was really hard because we couldn't really get any credibility from anybody. But we managed to raise for £5,000. And I think it was 2013 which we registered with the Charities Commission. And things just kind of spiraled from there, and it was never my intention, although it's turned out amazingly that it has gone this way. By 2015, as Dr Pendsey mentioned in his presentation, we were sort of exploring options of other things we could do to support, and it was always my wish that, as well as helping support the costs of medication and insulin, that we very much equally supported Dr Pendsey's vision of sustainability, because that's something which I think is quite unique. Actually, he doesn't want young people who are dependent on the system for years and years. He wants to give them the tools and the education that they can then go out and become self-sufficient. And one of the things at the time which the clinic was exploring was bicycles and making access to school and access to the clinic easier for the young people, many of whom live in remote villages, can be cut off during monsoon season. Actually, public transport can be expensive for them. We had this kind of mad idea that we'd try and get a whole load of bikes out there, which just turned into such a good news story. We had all kinds of people getting involved, and my grandmother, who's Margaret, who's on this call as well, sort of did a lot of the overseeing and pulling in favours left, right and centre. My uncle had some contacts in shipping who helped out. I believe they were bikes donated by the Rotary Club, which were then refurbished within a prison, which were then shipping company donated to their sort of services to get them out there, and myself and my sister went out and helped distribute them, which was just so great, and the kind of joy around that, and just seeing how far the clinic had come was amazing. And I just put that on here too, because this was a big moment. We have we sent out a group of I think we're 12 or 13 of them, students from Sussex University, who went and cycled around the south of India for us, and then went and visited the clinic. And I think it was around this point I started to think, oh, okay, well, we really are starting to go somewhere now. We are really becoming known. And I think through Facebook and social media, we were just starting to gain a bit of leverage. It was moving away from just gatherings of friends and family and contacts organising fundraisers for us, to actually people starting to hear about us and find our website. So yeah, this was a leap forward again, and this is 2018 when I was last in India. I went out with my husband Chris, always self-funded, which I'll come to later, but just to go out and see how far the charity had developed, how well all the young people who had met over the years were doing. It was just incredible, to be honest with you. And I love these pictures here. We met this huge group. We had a function for all these young people who are sponsored by people from the Pendsey Trust. they're just looking so happy and well and full of life and so excited by everything, you know. And we hear how they're getting on at school, and these young people really do grasp these opportunities by both hands, you know, always you know, doing well at school, trying their hardest, aspiring into all different kinds of things. And off the back of this trip, we posted an appeal for some of the children we've met who didn't have sponsors, and we just absolutely rocketed in terms of the number of sponsors who were supporting us, who obviously then went on and told people about us. And you know, but this was a really important trip. And here we are in 2020. We've got over 100 children who are sponsored full time, and the number fluctuates a little bit with you know, with things going up and down as people come and go. And we've got over 100 children who are supported full time by us, which is just amazing. And I'm so grateful to everybody here who is involved in that element of our work. We actually turn over around 28 to 32,000 pounds a year, which from where we came, which was just a group of friends organising pub quizzes to try and help out, you know, we're immensely proud of, and I'm immensely grateful for everyone who's helped us to get there. And I think the thing which we remain most proud of is the fact that, and it was always my vision, that we would be entirely admin cost free and entirely run by volunteers. So not a single penny is spent in the UK on things like staffing, leafleting. Even our website was donated by a volunteer. We've had our videos, which some of you might have seen, was made by the lovely Roy, who travelled out completely self-funded to make those for us. And I think, you know, that's very much part of our ethos and what we do as a charity, and probably makes us quite unique compared to many other charities, for better or for worse. I just want to share some of these because I think this really, and I pulled out lots of pictures from over the years. It shows how far we've come. Really, we've had everything from, you know, someone running the London Marathon to us. We have PJs for Pendsey, where people took photos of themselves in their pajamas and donated. We've had people organising martial arts events for us, and we've just grown and grown. We've got supporters of all different ages, right the way through, from little Ollie Fox, who's been involved with us for years and years. Lots of people doing loads of different things and having a really great time doing it. And people, you know, I'm so honoured to have met so many amazing people through doing this work. As well, and that's really was all for me. Before we move on to some questions, it was just to thank you, and it comes back to this little girl who I met, who Dr Pendsey showed on his slide as well, and this is Nandini, who I think was about 8 when I met her first, maybe 7 or 8 years old, and ended up being actually sponsored by my family and my mum, who later on in our journey became our sponsorship coordinator. At the time, it was just her daughter nagging her to do something for charity again. But yeah, this is Nandini, and my family have sponsored her over these years. And you can see, as Dr Pendsey said, now she's turned into this bright young girl who we're just so proud of, and she does really feel like part of our family. So what I would like to do now, I will stop sharing my screen, and I can see that we've got quite a few questions already. Sanka, is the best thing if I read the questions out and then you answer them, or you field them to whoever you think is best placed to answer them?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, super. So I just had a couple which was sent in advance. So the first one was for those who live in remote areas but don't have access to a fridge, how do they keep their insulin cool?
I'll answer the they most of the time they store in as I showed you, earthen pot or some cool place at home, which is usually the kitchen, and they keep it in earthen pot and cover it with a cloth and keep watering that cloth so that the insulin relatively remains cool. But it does destroy 20-25% of the activity of insulin. So that's a risky proposal. But gradually we are overcoming that, because now electricity access is improving in villages, and will be providing more and more refrigerators to all our children after the COVID epidemic or pandemic is over. I have a question here about geographic area of our clinic or Dream Trust, and we cater to about 11 districts around Nagpur, and that's about 300 kilometers radius from Nagpur, and that's the area we get all the children from, because that's manageable, and they can visit us once in 2 or 3 times in a year to collect insulin, meters, strips, and whatever medical help they need. Uh, then the second question is, uh, I mentioned that 30% of the insulin is analog, and he's asking what's the remaining 70%. See, analog is now the treatment of choice in international guidelines, but they are 2.5 times expensive. So we have started initiating some children on analog insulin, but they account for almost 25 to 30%. Remaining 70% are on human insulin. Uh,
The UK.
yeah, in UK, this is a universal problem. The parents keep on nagging the children for frequent blood glucose test and carb counting and all. And this is a universal problem. We also face the same problem, because when they bring the diary of self blood glucose monitoring, SEMA always detects that there are a lot of manipulations in the blood glucose recording, and they try to impress upon us with some good levels. But when we do the A1C, it's just the other way. And but it's all part of the game, and we have to uh, keep on educating and motivating them for advantage of more glucose monitoring, and we provide them strip, lancets, everything, so that at least they do a test or two per day, so that they know where they are and how good they are controlled. But all sorts of tricks are played by children all over the world, and this is a universal phenomenon. uh, there is a question from Katrina. What has been the highlight of my journey of Dream Trust in 25? Uh, Last year, I had a emergency call from one big hospital, multi-specialty hospital, and I reached there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the patient was having seizures, diabetes, and he was in the ICU, and everybody was struggling to calm the patient and give intravenous therapy. And then came a senior nurse, and she managed giving intravenous injection to control that seizure. But she was wearing all mask and other things, so I didn't recognize. After the giving injection, she bent down and touched my feet. I said, why are you touching my feet? And then she removed her mask and showed her face. And she was my type 1 diabetic girl whom I have been helping for last more than 12 years. And now she was the in charge of ICU in that multi. That was a very gratifying. And there are many such instances when I was moved. And that's the enjoyment and feedback you get for working for Dream Trust. And sometimes we also get little negative uh, responses, and some criticism is always there when you do a good charity work. Uh, the impact of COVID on the education of children. As of now, since March 2020, all the schools are closed, and in urban cities, the children are uh, learning little bit through videos and online education, online schools. But in villages, they are finding it very difficult to have access to computers and mobile uh, phones. But even in villages, although they are not having uh, the computers and access to this online school, but efforts are being made to collect children at one place and give them some educational tips. But this year is going to be uh, erased from the life of the children as far as education is concerned, and maybe from next academic year they'll be able to join school, because parents are so scared to send their children. Even if the schools open, I'm sure more than 50% of the parents won't send their little kids to schools. They are so scared of corona that fear has still not gone from the general population, despite all education and awareness. But even the adults are equally concerned about COVID, but at times they misbehave, they go in crowds and have some gala time, and at times suffer from COVID. But I think uh, next academic year we'll be able to start schools for all the students across the country. It's not virtual, it will become actual.
What HbA1c improvement have you seen in diabetic children over the last 25 years for children in your clinic?
Yeah, as I said, it has been very depressing for estimating A1C in type 1 diabetic children that we see from villages. And we have been struggling to bring it to single digit. The international people are struggling to bring it below 7%, but we are struggling to bring it to single digit. And it's really a difficult job because of two things. The We are continuously motivating them, but still home blood glucose monitoring, then frequent 4 to 5 injections are still not followed. They skip injections very casually for small, simple reason. 1 or 2 injections they skip and land with hyperglycemic episodes, and their A1C is difficult to bring below 7. I am still struggling with this village children with type 1 diabetes. Over the years, it has improved with since we started providing them meters and strips. Even meters and strips are very, very expensive. But since last 5 years, we are providing them strips, at least 2 strips per day, and that has given us some better hope and results.
Can we send Christmas gifts, or
Yeah,
is it better not to because of lockdown?
uh, we don't have lockdown. I have told Lucy very well and Catriona as well that you can send small gifts. They should be small. They should be inexpensive, not very expensive, and you should always write a guideline which I have given to Catriona that it's a gift for poor diabetic children of Dream Trust and could be distributed without discrimination of caste, creed, religion, and gender. And it should be a small post office and should be sent in a bubble wrap envelope by air mail.
What is your plan and vision for the next?
It's very difficult. I'm nearing 70, so I don't dream for uh, so much of future. I look forward to next 5 years, and that's how I keep on targeting my dreams. But I have my son, Dr. Sanket, who has taken over my clinic, and he's practically looking after all the type 1 as well as type 2 patients. And he has to carry the Dream Trust flag flying for next 25 years. And I am also hopeful that economic situation, social situation in India will improve in next 25 years, and more children will not require the help of Dream Trust, but will provide them some other help, if not insulin, some other help, so that they come up and equalize with the rest of the society and the population of our country, and become strong citizens of our country. But that's a vision for next 25 years. And I'm hopeful Dr. Sanket and his team will manage Dream Trust in their own way and in different manner, and keeping the situation in mind.
I think from our end as well, in terms of 25 years, my hope is that within 25 years, we either have a cure for type 1 diabetes, or that the drug companies start an arrangement which means that those who can't access insulin in an affordable manner are able to access it. But from our end, I mean, we've got these 100 kids, and we always said around 100 kids was what we wanted to help. And I want to see those 100 young people into adulthood becoming self-sufficient, just like that nurse who Dr. Pendsey spoke about a minute ago, who, you know, able to live their lives in a self-sufficient and proud way. I think something Dr. Pendsey didn't mention was all the young people the young achievers often who come back and actually speak at the clinic and speak to young people at the clinic, because they are now living their lives as young adults in a sort of proud manner, and despite a lot of the stigma which they face. And if we could take those 100 young people into adulthood in the same way as the senior nurse, that I think that would be the achievement for us. I want to remain always that we're run by volunteers, and the way we do things, not everyone likes it, but for me, that's the only way I could ever imagine running the Pendsey Trust. Hopefully with all our amazing sponsors and supporters still alongside us. I think you've just got one more question, Dr. Pendsey, and
Yes.
then we'll have taken up enough of your valuable Saturday evening.
Freestyle Libre has brought tremendous improvement for people here. I wonder if a bot would be able to help you. Cost might be similar to blood testing. So issue would be access to electricity for readers.
You can answer this.
Now, recently, the Abbott Libre Pro was launched in India, which earlier the uh, professional version was available, which was used by doctors only. But now, just last week, the personal version, which can be used by patients in their home, was launched. So probably we will have to think this aspect, and this is a good idea that we can tie up with Abbott and provide freestyle Libre Pro for some of our patients who would really benefit with the freestyle Libre Pro. Yeah.
Yes. Even with the insulin pumps, the problem is so we are giving insulin pumps to well-to-do, economically better off type 1 diabetics who attend our clinic, but they are not uh, being provided help from Dream Trust. They are self-sufficient economically. So those patients are on insulin pumps, and their A1C we are able to achieve below 7 or around 7%. And same will happen with the this SMBG and um, management with the scanners, and it's going to be more and more machine dependent management of type 1 diabetes with continuous blood glucose monitoring, TIR, or that's time in range, and every child with type 1 diabetes will be able to keep the blood sugar in time in range all 24 hours, 365 days. But that's all a futuristic uh, vision. And to come to poor diabetic children of Dream Trust, it will take little more time. But one doesn't know. Things may become economical, cost effective, and will be, I can assure you, will provide them even with this mechanical new electronic equipment to our children with Dream Trust if it's cost effective.
Right, thank you, Dr. Pendsey, and thank you everyone else for joining us. It's been amazing to get everybody together, and hopefully for those of you who know more about our child sponsorship work, to hear a bit more about all the kind of vocational stuff which is equally important to us. And really nice to see some old faces and new faces. So thank you very much to Seema and Sankit and Swati and Sharad, and to everybody else who has come onto the call today. As I said, this is recorded if there was anything you want to catch up on. And obviously, if at any point any of you do have any questions, you can contact us via Facebook or via our email address. But for now, that's all from us. And then thank you everybody for joining us this Saturday.